Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. Today we're going to go into some of the basics of seed starting. For some of you that's not started your own seeds in the past, thinking about it, and even some information for those of you that may already be starting seeds at home. The whole reason behind growing your own food or starting your own seeds is to give you a selection of things that you might want. You might not can get at your big box stores or your uh, farm supplies or such as that. And there's so many different ways to start seeds, whether it's maybe you're multi-sowing to start seeds. Maybe you're just starting them in individual trays. Now, you can have beautiful transplants just like these are. It's not that hard to do. You may have some success. You may have some failure. A lot of this has to do with being able to get the selection of uh, plants that you want, the varieties that you want, not just the ones they want to sell you. For those of you that aren't subscribed to my channel and you want to learn more about self-sufficiency, growing your own food, preserving it, or other things that may be homestead related and such as that, just hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and select all so you'll get the notifications whenever I upload a new vehicle or new video. And of course, hit that like button, give it a big thumbs up, helps out. Now we're going to talk today about starting seeds, and there's so many options out there when it comes to seed starting. And I'm going to show you a few, and I'm going to give you the pros and cons of a lot of these different methods. Now, cell trays come in all different sizes. Now, this cell tray here actually had another row on both ends, but I cut it down so it fits in your standard 10 by 20 bottom tray, so I could water it that way. Now, this tray, if you're planting something and you want a lot of plants, and it could be anything, lettuce, beets, anything like that, you just take and it would be good for a lot of those things, but I don't use it anymore. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason is because it's got so little area for your moisture in your soil, and that you have to really maintain the water, make sure you keep it watered properly. And the other thing is, once your plants get up a little bit to where they're really transplant size, unless you're going to pot them up into a bigger tray, say you was going to put single seeds in here and pot them up into a bigger container, say, and there's all kinds of options. I use these. I use a lot of recycled containers. You can get these at nurseries and such as that a lot of times. Or maybe you're just going to pot it up into your normal size 72 cell flat, or maybe you're going to go to a bigger one, a 32, or even one of these. And this is one of Bonnie's. Sometimes you buy plants this size. This tray might be perfect for that, but for me, that would be the only time. I don't use it anymore. It's sits out on the shelf and it collects dust. But I wanted you to be aware of that. Now, you might buy one of those kits from the big box stores. Walmart's got them, Lowe's got them, where you have a 72 cell tray, and this is actually, it would be this long. They do separate in the middle. They've got a seam, and they could separate into two. And you can buy these. They have a little dome, and they have the bottom tray so it catch water when you water them and stuff. And you might want to go with one of these. Now, I did use these to start out with, but the problem with these is, unless you're planting a lot of one variety, seeds germinate. Different varieties of seeds germinate at different rates. If you put peppers and you put tomatoes here, some would start germinating right off the bat. Some might take up to a week, 2 weeks longer, just depending on what it is. And it'd be in the same cell tray. Well, the best way to make a leggy plant is keep the dome on once the seed germinates. It refracts the light a little bit, so they don't get as good a light, and it keeps a lot of humidity in there. So that tends to make two things: the temperature is going to get warmer in here, and that humidity is going to cause that plant to grow and stretch out for the light. Because the warmer the temperature when you're growing a seedling, the faster it's going to want to grow. But if it doesn't have the light, it's going to stretch for that light. So that's going to make it leggy. So I don't recommend these, but I like the setup with the dome. And what I do is you can order these regular little 6-packs off of Amazon. There's probably some other places, but you can take and order these, and you can fit in that same tray. You can have, I think it's 6 dozen of these 6 dozen cells. So it'd be 12 of these will fit inside that tray, which is good because then if you plant one of these and it starts germinating, you can take this out and you can put it on another bottom tray or something and get that humidity lower so that plant's not going to get as leggy. All right, this tray here, and I use this one too at first. The holes have a little bit more area for soil in them over that other tray. It's not very deep too, but it worked good for certain things, but it didn't work that great. So I don't use this tray no more, but it is an option for some of you might want to do if you're going to plant the same thing all through that tray. Now, another type of tray, and I ordered, and I trimmed the sides on these because they would set up on the top of a bottom water tray. And let me get one of those. And here's the bottom water tray. Now, this is from Greenhouse Mega Store. Their tray is considerably heavier than the one that you get with the big box stores, the little kits. So it holds up better if as far as for carrying and such. But this tray, and the edges have been cut off of this one, but it's made where it'll fit down in here, because originally it was set up on the side. That tended to make it bow in the middle. You couldn't water them and expect these to kind of get even water and soak it back up. This tray for some things was all right, but it has the same problem as many. You have to plant a lot of the same things in it. Plus, one thing I didn't like about it is it doesn't hold as much soil. I thought it'd be great because it used less soil, but for the things that I plant in cell trays, it's not that great. Now, you can pick up some holders from a lot of your nurseries or some of your landscaping companies where they buy flats of small plants, and they use different containers. These here are deeper. They've got a good depth to them. Now, some things, if you're going to have to, say the weather's bad and your transplants aren't going to go out in time and you want to step them up so they don't get root bound, this is ideal. And it works good because you can just set these in here and you'll be able to carry this wherever you need to. But these are good to have if you can get your hands on them. Also, they do fit inside one of these other trays, the 10 by 20 bottom water trays. So it's great when it comes to having to water it. If it's indoors or something, you can't let the You know, you can't let that water run all over. Now, I do have some of these. I purchased these from a greenhouse supply. Now, these trays are built for this larger tray. You can fit a half dozen of them in here, and it makes it easy to carry. Now, once I move these outside, I'll move them to one of these trays when I put them in the greenhouse to grow on. But normally, when I'm growing them inside, I just put them in these trays because I can fit, instead of fitting 3 dozen, I can fit 4 dozen putting them in here, just lining them down here and then putting some this way. So, but that is an option. Most of what I use is the 72 trays for most things now, unless once I'm doing tomatoes and peppers, something I know is going to be in a tray for a while, I'll use those bigger trays. But most things I use, this is a standard one like you would get from say one of your big box stores. But underneath it, I actually have, and this tray has drain holes, but it's actually the tray like when you go there and the ones they transport in. And the reason I like these is because it kind of holds my trays in place, and it fits perfectly inside a bottom water tray. Plus, a dome will go on top of it. So that's also a great option to go with. Now, we'll come over here and see. Your standard domes are short like these domes. These are the ones that come on those kits that you buy, say at Lowe's or Walmart. And they're all right, but there's a problem with them as far as whenever I start using other trays besides the ones that they come with. The problem is that they don't have enough clearance. You can see this dome here has a little bit of movement, so it's easy to fit down on. The other one doesn't, and a lot of times it'll set up a little bit so it doesn't keep moisture in as well. And so I purchased these off of Amazon that are taller trays. I'm guessing these are about 4.5 inches, something like that. And these are about 2.5 inches, but the main thing is the size. And over a period of time, you might want to upgrade and go with something like that. Another thing I want to talk about, because I hear a lot of questions people ask, and they ask what kind of soil for soil blockers and stuff like that. I will never buy a soil blocker. The cost of them is kind of ridiculous, but they serve no real purpose, because that's the same thing as using those peak pellets that you put your seed in, wet them, and they expand up in growing your seed in it, or peak pots. Yes, they might think they're good. I mean, you can just put them into the ground or whatever. But the problem is when you water, and we try to get away from plastics, but there's just some places that plastics work so much better. When your plant grows in a cell tray, it doesn't have water wicking out the side and then the air drying it. And so you don't have to worry about your plants getting root bound to where you see them on the outside, because once they get to the air, they're going to dry out, they're going to die, and they're not going to go no further. Now, when you plant in a cell tray, the plastic keeps the moisture in there. So when those roots go out, they're going to curl around, but they're going to keep feeding that plant, and they're going to get good, healthy roots. Now, a lot of people worry about root bound plants. Now, I bought a lot of plants. It's got a lot of roots. I talk about in some videos about, when you're at the store and you're looking at plants, if you're not growing your own, you can pop one out and see how bad the roots are bound up. Now, in certain circumstances, there might be a problem. If the plant is not very big, if it's already flowering or even has fruit on it, then that's not a plant you want to buy. But here at Gardening Simplified, I'm encouraging you not to buy plants unless you have to. I can understand crop failures and you want to get some in the ground or something like that. But I want to see everyone grow their own plants, and I want to see them do it organically. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, peat pots do the same thing. They dry out. You wet them, they'll dry out, and you might see roots start to come out the side sometimes, and then that's it. They're done because roots can't grow out in there when the moisture content gets a little low between watering. The roots are going to die, and so it's spending all that energy building roots that it's not going to be able to use because they're not going to be there anymore. So if you're one of these that grow in the peat pellets or peat pots, it's best if you change up how you do things. Now let's talk to those people that don't want to buy cell trays. They want to grow in solo cups. I'm going to say solo. This is actually, I don't believe this is solo brand, but anyway, and they say use a colored cup, because the roots don't like sunlight. I don't know where that comes from. I propagate a whole lot of fig trees. The roots come out to the edge of a clear cup and they might stay in there for a while and they just seem to do fine. I'm sure they're not getting full sunlight on them, but they seem to do just fine. But when you plant in these solo cups and you'll put in dirt and you'll leave it a couple inches down from the top or an inch down from the top or something. Now, and you always make drain holes for sure. You want the excess water to be able to drain out. You don't want it to be the roots drowning in the bottom. But when you put that soil down an inch or two from the top, the minute that seed comes up, you can have it in windowsill, but what it's going to do is it has to grow above this top of this cup in order to get sunlight. And so what's happening is that plant is going to be leggy up to that point right off the bat. And I see a lot of people that are growing in those and they ask about their plant and problems with it and everything else. And I'll see that soil level down. Now, if you're going to grow in these, your soil needs to be at the top. If it's not, you can buy these little pots here. I got these off of Amazon. They're a whole lot cheaper than buying these plastic cups. A whole lot cheaper. So that'd be an option. If you don't want to use so much dirt, you could plant them in this. But I would still say either buy this bigger one, depending on what you're planting, or get some of these. And if you have one of those big box store kits, you can just replace and use those that way. Because for me, I plant a whole lot of a certain kind of seed, but a lot of times I don't. I'll plant different kinds in the same tray. And what I'll do is once the ones germinate and start out, I'll move them out of that dome and move them into something else. Another thing I want to talk about is the mix you use. Now, I mix my own, and this is actually what I use to pot up. It's got a little bit coarser compost in it than the other mix, and it's got less peat moss. I use more peat moss because it helps my transplants stay together better. If I use less, the compost will a lot of times let them fall apart when I'm taking them out of cells and transplanting. And you'll learn that stuff over time. But what I want to talk about is you can make your own, or you can buy different things to transplant. But a lot of people, when I'm for seed starting, but a lot of people take and they want this sterile, and it's just a peat. Most of your seed starters are just peat. Now they have some that you can buy. I know I've been seeing more like Walmart, Tractor Supply, and stuff carrying ProMix. ProMix is good. It's a little bit more expensive for me than mixing my own. But the thing I want to talk about is you'll hear from a lot of gardeners, your plants don't need any fertilizer until after they get their second leaves. Okay, that's true. There's enough energy in that seed that that seed isn't going to, or that plant isn't going to need anything but the energy it's got in that seed to grow. But the problem is after that, it's going to need something. And I always focus on organic. If you understand chemical fertilizers, and most people don't even take the time of day to find out how organic fertilizers are made. Chemical fertilizers are made, and I say chemical fertilizers. They don't say that, but it's chemical fertilizers. Uh, and once you understand that, you understand that's something you wouldn't want in your body. So why give this to your plant? But the other thing is, and they say those plants grow to fine. Plants will grow with chemical fertilizers. In fact, sometimes you can get really big crops off them, as far as big cabbage, big tomatoes, this and that. But your flavor is going to be different. And the other thing is that plant isn't going to be as healthy. Yes, it takes longer for organic fertilizers to break down. And that's one reason when I start mine, I go ahead and I give them a dose. Now I have this bag. This was something I used to use, which is vegetable and tomato. And the reason it says tomato is because its nitrogen is lower than the rest. A lot of vegetable crops, if you give them a lot of nitrogen, they don't produce as well. And that would be the case with tomatoes, peppers, such as that. They're going to be more focused on growing than blooming. But what's in this container is actually not what comes in that container. This is I say pelleted chicken litter, but it's actually, I get the crumbles, so they're not the bigger pellets. It's crumbled down in smaller pieces. But organic fertilizer takes a while to be broken down by the microbes in order to feed the plants. So if you put it in there when you start, chances are you'll start getting some availability. Now I'll have some available nutrients in my compost. It's not a big amount, but it's plenty enough to get them to going. But as they get bigger and as the microbes grow more in that seed tray, you're going to end up giving them natural food. They're good food. It's kind of the difference from maybe you eating bugs compared to other food. It's food that the plants actually go after. They secrete chemicals at their roots that cause these microbes to bring these nutrients up, and then they absorb them. So they get more nutrients, better nutrients, and the plants are healthier. You have less bug problems. A lot of people say, oh, how do I've got an infestation of this, infestation of that. Now, I have a couple of tricks that I have done videos on that helps with the bugs, but the biggest thing is the help is organic solutions. And since I've switched to organic, probably about 4 years ago, my problem with infestations have got lower every year. Last year was fantastic. We had very little problem. It was easily contained. So when you plant your plants, if you're using an organic fertilizer, put it in there when you plant them. Give it time to start breaking down. Let the biology in the soil start building while they're in the cell tray, and then they'll adapt good once they get out. And that's one reason why a lot of my customers tell me the vegetables and produce I sell taste so good and look so good. it's because I'm not pushing them. I could grow nice big plants that don't have that much flavor with chemical fertilizers. But you'll find that a lot of things in the ground, uh, they don't respond good to it, and you'll have a lot more problems. So if you're going to grow your own food, make it better than the food you're starting in the store. And so that comes to one more basic when it comes to planting. Okay, your uh, hybrids, that's uh, those tomatoes have been grown, and we're not talking GMOs. You can't buy GMOs. Uh, that's going to be commercial growers. You'd have to sign a contract once you bought seed stuff. You won't find most seed stores will say non-GMO. Well, that's because they can't sell you GMOs. That you buy these from a company. But your hybrids, most your hybrids, now they're trying to get better, but the flavor is not as good as a lot of your open pollinators or your uh, heirloom varieties. There are better resistance if you have problems with certain types of pests. But then again, a lot of those problems you're having might be because you're using chemical fertilizers. So you can go with uh, an heirloom or open pollinator and get good results if you switch the way you grow your food. Uh, the the other thing is your old heirloom varieties are more nutrient dense. Now, you might say, what's the importance of that? When they did some studies back, I'm going to say in the the mid to later part of the last century, where they tested nutrient density of a lot of the uh, heirloom and open pollinator varieties. Then later on, and I think maybe it was in '95, where they took and tested a lot of the hybrids, and they found that the hybrids, many of them, I'm not going to say most because I don't have the article in front of me right now, but the nutrient density was half or less in these new varieties. So when you start figuring that you're going to be putting this effort in and money or whatever to grow these foods, and you're paying a whole lot, and not say I don't grow some hybrids. There's certain varieties that do taste good. People want them, so I grow them. But most of what I grow are heirlooms or your old open pollinator varieties. Because when I put something up, whether I can it, whether I vacuum pack and freeze it or whatever, I want that space to have the maximum nutritional value that it can have. And so when it comes to plant basics, you need to select your varieties. And you might try some to see how well they produce. A lot of your old heirloom varieties, uh, maybe they were a little less disease resistant. There's diseases coming on all the time. But a lot of them were changed to these hybrids because they had better qualities for shipping. One of the best cantaloupes that you can grow, and I just love the flavor of it, is the Hell's Best. Well, the Hell's Best was a commercial cantaloupe days past, but the thing was that once it got ripe, it was ripe. So it didn't have that long on the shelf. They had to ship it quick, everything like that. So they went to other varieties that they could grow, and it was strictly for the point of the market. So if you're wanting to grow the best varieties, you might look into some of these other ones and just try one with your hybrids that you do and see how it produces. My favorite tomato is the Cherokee Purple, and it's been around a long time. There's a lot of them grow big old tomatoes and such as that, but they don't have any flavor. I haven't tasted any as good as a lot of the heirlooms, but the heirlooms just don't produce as many tomatoes. Now, the Cherokee Purple is pretty good on production, but a lot of your heirlooms are really poor production. So unless they've got incredible taste, or it's just your taste, then that's where you need to go. But anyway, that's where we're at here on seed starting. I wanted to get some information, basic information. I wanted to, some of you that's been growing a while, maybe give you some information that would help you out and make you think about maybe changing some of the things that you do, especially if you're having a problem you don't know why. You might find out some of this information might be helpful. But anyway, for those of you that watched to the end, I appreciate it. Give her a big thumbs up and share this video. Enjoy that gardening experience.